Well, Brian, that was perhaps one of the greatest Premier League games we've ever witnessed. It finished 2-2 between the two title chasers, Manchester City and Liverpool. I was just thinking of a Jordan Henderson quote before the match on the Liverpool club website in an interview he gave before the game, saying to his teammates to make sure you come off the pitch having no regrets. And I just wonder with the Liverpool performance over the 90 minutes, do you think they will have regrets coming out of that game today?
I would, if that's what he said, I'd say they will. I don't think they played to their best, but they played as well as they were allowed by the opposition, who were particularly superb in the first half. I thought the scoreline at half time flattered Liverpool. The fact they were only 2-1 down, but they came out in the second half with a great attitude from the off, and they got an early reward with a quick goal by Sadio Mane, brilliant pass from Salah, and then they had a spell maybe for the first 15 minutes where they were the more dominant team. Then I felt the game, it didn't quite go back to the pattern in the first half because Liverpool were a bit more solid defensively than they were in the first half. Obviously they didn't concede the goal, they got away with the offside disallowed goal. But I would say some Liverpool players would be disappointed that they didn't play as well as they can play, and I think they would be the ones in the middle of the pitch. I thought at times Fabinho was off, several misplaced passes, and Jordan Henderson didn't influence the game that much. Thiago had little bits and pieces from him, as with Jordan Henderson. I mean, it's harsh to be critical of anyone that played in the game because it was such a magnificent game, such a high level technical qualities required with the intensity and the pressure players were under when they received the ball. There was no let up, but I think overall Liverpool would be happier with the result because they didn't deserve any more than the draw, whereas City played well enough to win the game. But they are probably content with the result as well. That's why it's funny in football, when you get two teams that could be both quite content with a result before the match, which is a draw, it can often work out that way. That's what happened today. City are content enough. It keeps them with the 1 point advantage. And the easier run in, whether they like it or not, or whether they'd be prepared to admit that, when you look at the fixtures, they have an easier run in than Liverpool, who have a few very difficult games, including Manchester United, Everton and Spurs. So, you know, you can say we as we were before the game, but we're not, because another game gone, and Liverpool are no longer in control of their own destiny, even if they win all 7 games. That doesn't win them the league, because Manchester City could win all 7 games also.
Just going back to that first half that you mentioned, and I thought one of your interesting comments during commentary was the fact that we saw both sides looking a little bit jittery and there were uncharacteristic mistakes on both sides. But as you said, that's down to the pressure that the opposition were putting on them. So as well as we see, both sides bringing out the best in each other, they sometimes bring out the worst in each other as well.
Yes, because I mean there was a frantic atmosphere in the stadium today at the Etihad. Manchester City fans knew how important the game was. They were absolutely behind their team and giving them great backing, and then their players respond to that. Not that they need the crowd. They play with that style. That's their way. They pressure the opposition. They're a high press team, the same as Liverpool are. Liverpool probably give the opposition more possession or more opportunity to recover the ball, because Manchester City are more precise with their passing and they spend longer time on the ball. So when they do go for the press, teams find it difficult to survive against them, and they did look jittery in defence at times, Liverpool today. But then each one of those back four had moments in the game, moments of brilliance. I mean, Robertson's cross for the ball, Trent Alexander's little cushion back set up for Jota to score was magnificent. The two full-backs up the pitch, both centre halves had difficult moments in the game, but at times they rescued their own team. There was several occasions second half when Van Dijk just got a foot to the ball in the 6-yard box. It looked like it was set up for a City player to score, and equally Joel Matip did the same. I can remember a moment where he was stretching out, he was going one way towards his own goal. to try and stop the cutback, and the cutback comes behind him, and he stuck out his right foot to just get a touch to knock it away from a City player. And it was that it was fine line touches and moments all through the game. It was just made for a magnificent game.
On Manchester City, Pep Guardiola was called out by a lot of media before the game against Atletico Madrid, and discussing his failures in the Champions League, perhaps because he overthinks things going into matches, trying to make a strange team selection or something that the opposition mightn't expect. But you would have to say today, his team selection today was spot on. It's kind of, you'd be hard pressed to find a Manchester City player that didn't perform today. I thought all the strikers played really well. Their midfield played really well. Bernardo Silva was dropping deep, which we wouldn't see him doing maybe as much in games. So you would have to credit Guardiola for picking the right team and for his players performing for him. Yeah,
well, look, he's a great manager. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. He's one. I mean, him and Klopp are two fantastic managers. He's an innovative coach. You go back to the brilliant Barcelona team, you can say, oh well, the great players he had, but the great players you have to put a shape on great players and make them effective, make the team effective. Just because you've great players doesn't mean that you're always going to win the biggest trophies. You've got to put a shape on the team and make sure that the great players are supported by other players who make the side effective. And that team, go back to that with Mascherano playing as a centre half, had been midfield with Liverpool, the great Barcelona team, Bayern Munich. You could say, there's frustration, didn't win the Champions League there, hasn't won the Champions League yet with Manchester City, and ultimately people will see that as a failure if they don't do it this season. Last season came so close, dominated the game in the final against Chelsea, but couldn't get the goal to equalise. As you mentioned earlier, he's overthought it, whatever. I don't think managers overthink things. I think it's the role of the manager to think through decisions very carefully and try and get the right decision. You can't be blasé about because he played well last week with that team, I'll stick with that team the next week against a totally different opposition. So he chose last year to go without either Fernandinho or Gundogan he played Gundogan. He didn't pick Fernandinho or Rodri in the Champions League final and played Gundogan as the centre midfield player. And Chelsea got the better of them in that they didn't defend well enough on the counter attack. But I wouldn't be picking holes in him as a manager. I think he made a mistake that day, and there were other days when they got beaten by Lyon and other games they lost in the past in the Champions League, and you might say he didn't get it right today. But you look at what they're doing in the league again. If they win the league this year, it'll be 4 times in 5 seasons. His team have been outstandingly good. The type of football, the progressive football they play, the brilliance of the rotation, interchange of positions, the quality of the goals, and he picked so many small players like himself, physically small players, from the back forward out, and yet they're so effective. And
centre forward,
centre forward, and you might say they should have signed one last year, and they haven't got a 20 goal a season attacking player. A lot of them are around, but there's so many goals in the team from all sorts of places, and I wouldn't be critical of him in any way, but I do think that they badly want to win the Champions League this year, and that the midweek fixture with Atletico Madrid is massive for them.
Yeah, I'll come back to that now in a second. Just to ask you finally on City, their experience of seeing out title races, 3 in the last 4, is that going to be crucial for them now in the last few games? They do have some tricky games, like the Wolves away, that kind of thing. But do you think that the experience those City players have in seeing out title wins is going to be the difference here?
No, I just think it's the ability of the team. I think what they've done in the past will stand to them. It's not the same players, but much the same players that were there last year, all right, of course. But I think it'll be down to... Will it be down to their experience? I think it'll be down to their ability. I've looked at the fixtures, and I don't see more than 1 or 2 games where they'll have a big problem. The West Ham game is probably the most difficult game if West Ham are still in with a shout of making the Europa League spot. They won't make the Champions League spot. They lost today to Brentford. So I think that is the one game. A lot of the other fixtures are against teams that are in mid-ranking positions. They're in that mid-pitch. I mean, there's only 5 teams really in the relegation situation, and there's probably 6 teams in the Champions League, Europa League spots. I don't think they're going to change too much. It might change the order between Spurs, Arsenal, Manchester United, but I don't think the other 3 positions. I don't think anyone below the Manchester United. So those are the teams have really nothing to play for. They're the best teams to be playing if you're chasing something in the top 4 or for the title itself. And Manchester City are playing a lot of those mid-ranking teams between now and the end.
Liverpool already have the League Cup in the bag. They've got City again in the semi-final of the FA Cup. They're still in the Champions League with a better chance of progression there. What does Klopp do now? Is he kind of thinking, well, there's only a point in the title race, but you would fancy City to get it done and maybe start focusing on getting the other 3 trophies? Or
I think you'd be delighted, Stephen, to win any of those other 3 trophies, but particularly the Champions League or the Premier League. But they're not in control of the Premier League anymore. And
the thing is, they won it a couple of seasons ago, but without their supporters. And I think that there's a sense of unfinished business there, isn't there?
Possibly. I don't know whether they feel that way about it. But last season was a very difficult season for them, where they didn't defend it well at all. Ended up 17 points behind Manchester City. No crowds most of the season as well there. But I would think if they were offered either the Champions League or the Premier League now, they take either. It's going to take them. They're not, as I said, they're not in control of the Premier League position. They could win all 7 games; it wouldn't be enough. But I don't think they're going to get 21 points. I think they will be doing well to get somewhere around 17 points from those fixtures. So that would allow City drop 4 points from the games they have left. That'd be that's my gut feeling at this stage. I could be wrong. I think the United match will have a big influence. Everton is another one. The Spurs game will be a difficult match, because I think Spurs will be still in contention for the Champions League spot by the time they play them. So it's like, from Liverpool's point of view, 1 trophy up, still in contention for 3, will be very disappointed not to end up with at least one of those 3. But that could be the case. Champions League, they should win. The Benfica one, I take it that they're going to beat Benfica.
Even though, as we mentioned towards the end of the game, the players looking tired, you think Liverpool will be okay?
I think Liverpool could make 4 or 5 changes to the team against Benfica and still hold on to a 2-goal lead that they have going into the home game. They were so superior to Benfica the other night. That scoreline could have been 5 or 6 in their favour. The goal was out of the blue in the second half. They gave Benfica a bit of heart, but just all over the pitch, Liverpool were far superior. So I expect them to be in the semi-final. But the cup game next week, I'd be interested to see what teams both managers play next week, because I think that's the competition they would be least worried about not winning, let's say. But yeah, both of them can win it, because if either of them wins, you'd fancy them in the final against Crystal Palace, and who's Crystal Palace play in the semi-final? God forgive me.
That's gone out of my
yes,
well.
It's
City, Liverpool, and then Palace against.
Anyway, it'll come to us. It'll come to us.
I have to get onto my stats, man.
No, it'll come to us quickly enough. But I'm saying they have to be favourites. Whoever wins that semi-final will be favourite for the final, Stephen. So I would expect to see both of them make changes next Saturday for that. They won't put out the teams.
Chelsea, oh my God.
Oh, of course.
Chelsea.
So they mightn't be that much of favourites for Chelsea. But I would think both of them next week will take a certain amount of risk by resting some players and putting in some of the other players who, you look at the squads they have, it shouldn't make much difference. It should still be a great game. Well,
you've given us the thoughts on Liverpool and Europe. Just to finish then on Manchester City, who face Atletico Madrid, and they were beaten surprisingly last night by a 1-0 against Mallorca. And I had a look at the Atletico team, and it was pretty much their strongest side. But I would say Diego Simeone was looking at that match today, rubbing his hands with glee, because the tiredness was starting to show in those City players towards the end of the game, and I'm sure he's got something up his sleeve for that second leg. Of course, City leading just by a goal to nil, but having to go away from home for the second leg.
Yeah, but I think he can freshen up the team easy enough without doing. I think the back four players would be able to go again, but if he wanted, he could easily put Zinchenko into the back four, in the left back position. Certainly, Kyle Walker on the right. To put Ake in at the back either, somewhere in there. Look in midfield. Gundogan could certainly come in. Fernandinho could play. They wouldn't be.
Mahrez could start.
Well, in the front line, he's got plenty of options up in the front line as well. So we might see that freshness, and that's why I'm saying next Saturday for the cup match, I think we would see freshening up as well, because the intensity of today's game has to have taken a bit out of some of those players. But both of these teams have very good squads now. City have always had. Liverpool have added to their squad. We saw Firmino and Diaz coming on today. Good options in the front positions, wherever three out of those five play. Better options. I didn't see Curtis Jones coming in today, but I think he could still play a part in one of these games. Very good young player, gets around the middle of the pitch very, very well indeed. James Milner is there also as a good option. We saw Keita coming on. Defensively, there are plenty of options now for right side, the centre back. Gomez is back fit. He can go in at either centre half or right back. And Kanate, who played very, very well against Benfica, apart from the mistake on the goal, which was a howler. But both teams are very good options, so I don't see them being over affected by tonight. But City still a bit to do in Madrid.
So just to take from those comments, I would take that you're probably angling towards City to win the Premier League title at this stage.
Oh, we do. I think they're favourites now, Stephen. I think today's result was a better result for them than it was for Liverpool. But I do feel that Liverpool would be happy enough to get out of the game. If they look at it critically and fairly, they would say, we didn't do enough to win the match today. They had the clearer chances, and the more near misses, and there was one right at the very death with Mahrez's chance. I think it was proved to be the last kick of the game. Could have won the game for Manchester City, whereas Liverpool never had that moment after Mane's equaliser.
Brilliant stuff, Brian, as ever. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Stephen. It was a pleasure to do the game today with you.